Greetings, friends! Welcome to a new Let's Play series of, as you can tell from the title of the video and the giant white letters on the screen, we are playing Planetbase. Planetbase is a relatively brand new game. I think it came out maybe a fortnight ago, which, by the way, fortnight's not a word I get to say that often. But anyway, it's a relatively recent game where you, as you might well guess, establish a base on a planet. In this game, we are going to build up a colony and different resources you can gather. I've seen comparisons to it on the Steam forums and in other places that I've investigated the game as a comparison to Banished, and I think that's a good comparison, but not entirely accurate, you know? And you'll see why as we get into the game. But let us do that. Let us get into the game here instead of me just going on and on about it, about gaming philosophy and whatnot. We have 3 different planets. We can only start from this one. I have played around a little bit with this game just to get the feel for it and whatnot before I started putting anything up on the internet. So we're starting on the Class D planet. Ooh, I wanted to back up here. Back. There we go. There are a couple of different ones. Down here, these are the different achievements that you get for your colony, and you need so many, as you can tell from under here and under here, to unlock the next level of planet. So you kind of got easy, medium, hard. And on any of my colonies, the best I've done so far is 3. Now, I've only destroyed many colonies. I haven't destroyed all of the colonies that I've attempted yet. So we got that going for us. So we got this giant planet here that we can choose from, and I don't know if you can tell. I mean, you can obviously see there's kind of, cloud formations wisping across the planet's surface, but there's also, I think this would be it, and you can kind of see the ridges here along the lines. These are the mountain areas, or the more kind of hilly, rocky areas, and you kind of want to settle, as far as I can tell, in a valley, but somewhat close to some mountains, so that you can mine resources out of them and whatnot. So I think this, you got a ridge here, if I'm looking at this accurately. There's a nice kind of mountain ridge along our back here. There's some this way, and from what I can tell, this kind of darker gray, or darker red, or grayish red area here is going to be some kind of plains area that we can expand out into. So let's plonk ourselves down here. And I'm going to call this Swordbase Alpha. Let's see how many letters of the Greek alphabet we can get through before we can clear this planet. So Swordbase Alpha. Start the game. Sip of my tea here. Okay, and we begin. Landing cutscene, super exciting, new planet, etc. By the way, this cutscene is unskippable. If I mash the escape key or click or whatever, we cannot skip this cutscene. But you've got different types of workers here. You've got regular workers. These guys in the green are your biologists. This bloke here in the red is our medic. And we've got an engineer and a carrier robot and a constructor robot. And we've got a number of resources in the colony ship here. Now, we do have to get the base set up quite quickly because our little man's suits have only so much oxygen. So they will start to suffocate if we don't get set up somewhat quickly here. So we're going to grab some stuff here. I'm going to set up an airlock over here, because I'm pretty sure on this ridge here we'll be able to set up some kind of mining operation. And you can see here there's little green lines that connect your place to one place to another. And what we're doing here is building an oxygen generator, which will be able to produce oxygen for us. But in order to do that, it needs water. So we're going to build a water extractor. And I'm going to go with the slightly larger sized one. so that we can... The small one will be fine for our immediate needs, but I feel like some of the initial stuff you want to do, a little bit bigger is better. And in order to run these two things, though, we will require electricity, which we will produce initially through solar panels. You can have like a super big one, small size. Small size will be okay for us to start here. So we'll put that in. Connect that over here. Excellent. And we're getting our oxygen generator up. The next thing that I'm going to want to establish is the... Good. Got the oxygen generator up. I'm going to build a canteen. I'm going to build it slightly there. There we go. Boop. And we're also going to want a dormitory. Now, dormitories can only connect to one building. It's kind of interesting. I think all the different building types do have specific amounts of things they can connect to. But I'm going to link up the dormitory to the oxygen generator because the more people that are in a specific building, the more oxygen it uses. And so where the oxygen generator is connected, it will keep that number higher longer, if that makes sense. So we're going to need the solar generator only works in the daytime, so we're going to need another energy source here. We're going to build a giant windmill. I do like the larger size for windmills. I feel like they're more ultimately effective. And in order to store up energy, I'm going to put in a medium-sized solar collector here. Now there is a sense of having a... That is terrifying. This is what happens. And also, I have to really make sure I don't, like, exclaim anything that I don't want to exclaim on this channel when that happens, because they do frighten me when they crash like that. Okay, so we got a canteen built. Have a... get that connected. Now, the canteen is the first of our buildings where we can put stuff inside it. So I'm going to place a table here so people can sit and eat, and build a, they call it a meal maker, I call it a vending machine in it, and we'll put a water fountain there so that people can have a drink and replenish their hydration needs. That's the word that I wanted. There's gonna be all kinds of things here. Eventually we will recycle our colony ship. If I cycle this up here, information in the top right, you've got your population, you've got your number of robots, and you've got what day or what time of day it is, and also how fast the wind is blowing. So we got our battery up here, so any excess energy that we generate will be put into the battery. And that will certainly be helpful to us. So we're getting the dormitory built here. Only engineers and construction robots can build rooms, places. That also goes for anything inside the places here. Also, if we hit tab, we can cycle the roofs being on and off so we can see what our people are getting up to inside the building. Now, the next thing I feel that we are going to want to have is a biodome, and I'm going to put this over here, also connecting it to the oxygen generator, because a lot of people do hang out in the biodome as well. It's a production area, so that will probably be an area where we have a lot of people going in, so I want that connected as close as possible to the O2 generator. Excellent. So oxygen is gradually permeating into the places. The red there is areas that are oxygen deficient, but it just the only thing that means once you construct a building is that just takes a little bit for the oxygen to get in there. So not too big a deal. We only need one bed probably at the start here because our colonists will sleep in shifts. It's not like this is Jeff's bed. Only Jeff can sleep in this bed. It's just a general purpose bunk, and as long as there's an open bunk and someone who needs to sleep, the two will meet and they will be very happy together. And we wish them all the best. So we do have some meals here to start on the food there. But one thing we are going to want to have as well is a storage unit. Where is our storage unit? There it is. Storage. And our medium storage will probably be plenty good for the initial thing here. So I'm going to put it here because food generated in the biodome will go to the storage, and then it can go from the storage to the canteen, or it can go directly there. But I'm trying to minimize the number of connections that we are going to have here. Why? There we go. Yeah, I got sniffles or a cold coming on or something. So I apologize if any gross sounds get into the video. So inside the biodome, we've got a couple different types of plants that we can grow. We've got on the top row here in kind of this pale color are foods that are rich in starch. Now those are useful because in order to make bioplastic, which is this green resource here, you need to have starch to produce that. 1 unit of starch is ultimately processed into 1 unit of bioplastic. So you can't really build without having a healthy amount of food of this nature. However, it does produce 1 less food amountage per tick, if that makes sense, you know? So if we produce, say, this tomato will produce 3 units of food. The starch resources will only produce 2 units of food and the starch as their third. So you're still getting plenty of food, and you'll probably be totally fine. Oh, I didn't build the larger size greenhouse. That was a mistake. Oh well, we'll figure. We'll deal with it. So I'm gonna put in 2 rice pads, a tomatoes, and I'm also gonna put in a med plant. Which that will produce plants that are basically herbal remedies that you can then process into proper medicine with a laboratory, which will be on our to-do list here shortly. Because in the labs you can also grow not synthetic meat, I suppose, but meat without animals, we'll say. I want to get out of that. Secret building storage. One of the reasons I'm getting a storage unit set up here is because we can eventually scrap our colony ship here if we hit this little recycle button, which is the delete key. However, it will mean that all of our junk out here will sit outside, and over time it will gradually deteriorate. Now, it can sit out there for quite some time before it will totally just disintegrate and be useless, but I'd really rather not put that put us into that position. So the next thing that I am going to set up here is going to be a processing plant, which will then be able to process the starch and ultimately ore once we start mining stuff, which is probably going to be our next thing that we're going to try to start doing. How are we on electricity? Quite all right. Let me actually take a look at the graphs here, the power grid. So this graph, sorry, I know I'm kind of like jumping around between a lot of things. This game, one of the things about this game is it doesn't have a pause. So you kind of have to be managing everything all at the same time. It's a little bit annoying, I think. It'd be nice if you could hit space and just pause for a second and kind of figure some stuff out before you start having to place it, but we don't have that luxury. So we have our power grid here. We're consuming 17 of the produced 49 kilowatts. So our battery is just sitting at fully charged because we are generating enough power to produce in comparison to it. Our water needs are we're actually using a fair amount of water, taxing our system enough between the oxygen generator and our population's water needs, plus the needs of our plants. So we might need another water generator in the not too distant future. However, what I was going to set up here was a mine. I want to try to set it so that the entrance, is facing, yes, that way. Because the entrance of the mine, which I think will be like on this side, they can walk directly into the airlock. Now, as I said, the airlock can only have one connection, but that's to an interior connection. It can have as many connections as you want on the exterior, and what these do, it basically provides the power linkage that you will ultimately require. So these two things just need to be built. That needs 2 steel resources, 2 metal resources, which we will begin to produce not too distant future. Excellent. So we've reached our survival thing here, and if you click on this, it gives you a little cutscene that is also unskippable. Just a little bit obnoxious. It's like, okay, cool, it's a nice screenshot of my base, but we have completed the survival achievement for this particular map, which means we've survived for a day. Sip of tea here. I will recycle the colony ship game in the not too distant future, so just hold your horses. Okay, so we got a processing plant. Excellent. So I am going to, yeah. Now's the time to recycle the thing. And stuff will gradually start to be moved into the base. So, in our food generation here, only biologists can produce food, or produce plant life. So, each of these little pads here requires a certain amount of maintenance and upkeep to make sure that they grow. If we click on this, you can see like this lettuce pad produces quickly, but it has a high maintenance cost. So it needs to be checked on by a biologist more frequently than perhaps this mushroom pad, which has slow production but low maintenance. So it's kind of, and then there's some kind of more balanced ones, the onions and the radish, and it's the same for up here. Medicinal pads, as far as I know, are fairly balanced in terms of how much babysitting they need. So we're getting things brought inside here. Our mine is now operational, so our mine will be worked by workers. Now, where did it put the entrance? This is a question for the ages. Seriously, where did it put the entrance? Over there. Why is the entrance on that side? Game, you're the worst at game. What if how much is it to delete you? How much is it to build the thing? How much am I going to lose, basically, by deleting this? Oh, none. Okay. So I get full recouped thing here. Excellent. So what I'm going to do, actually, instead of putting the mine there, because it's going to be placing it stupidly, for reasons passing understanding, I'm going to place a small water generator here, because we're going to need more water soon, because as you saw, we were taxing... What was I swear we were taxing the water grid. Weird. No, because it produces... What? We're not... So how are we producing 700 and whatever and consuming that? Is it because I built this? That's factoring this water thing's production in already? Maybe that's it. That has to be it. Anyway, so if I place this here now it'll... Game. So it's showing me that the entrance... Oh, but it probably will rotate it. So I'm going to put this here. Connect to that. That was the ultimate reason that I wanted to do that, is so the mine could be connected to this. So we got another water generator. It's not the worst thing in the world. We've got our processing plant done here. So I'm going to put in a steel producer and a plastic producer. And when our rice pad crop comes in, we will get two units of rice and 1 unit of starch that will then be processed into plastic. Hooray! Oh, I haven't placed in here. Oops. Slight oversight on my part. We need a vid screen, because video screens are the ways that is the kind of initial way you can keep your population, you know, happy and not insane. So we've got our first base up here, it seems. else I want to do. Because really, one thing I can do is set the game speed going faster. I always forget to do that. Like, it's just not in my memory to do that. Because I think it's because I can't go from pause to super speed that I just forget that I need to kick the speed up. Because I'm used to, like, in games like Banished, like, I run it on 10 speed, I think is the max, permanently. And unless I'm paused, in which case I'm building and structuring stuff. So, whatever. Okay, so up here, we've got our resource thing here, and there is starch that has been produced by our rice pads. And see there's the starch units there, and they will be taken to the plasteel generator, or plastic generator, and they will start to be processed into plastic. Hooray! Think of what our next objective should be. So once the food that gets produced in these places is produced, it will then be put into the meal maker, and the meal maker will turn it into an actual dish. There is some combination that I've not really explored too deeply, too much in depth, where certain combinations of things will produce better meals that will not only take care of your colonist nutrition needs, it will then also take care of a small part of their morale needs, so it'll make them slightly happier. It's like, oh, I'm having a good dinner.